Hello. Good morning, all. Let me know if you're here. I'm Jennifer Eubank here for the Sun and Moon Yoga YouTube channel here every morning. And I'm here each Friday from 10 to 10:30. So give a shout out if you're here. You don't have to if you don't want to. We'll get started in a moment or two. And today's practice will focus on the spine. Hello, Susan. Hi, Susan. Good to see you. So with that being said, you may want to have a blanket and you may want to have a block. Neither is necessary, but both are pretty handy and can come in really handy for your practice today. Good morning, Betsy. Good to see you. Good to hear from you. So a block and a blanket. We'll get started in just a few moments, and we'll start in a seated position. And you probably noticed from the title, our focus will be the spine, specifically the tailbone. We're going to get down to it, down to the root of the matter. So I'll start in just a few moments. It's just about 10 o'clock. We'll see if a few more folks come in. And please know that you can always go back and watch these videos again or for the first time if you missed any. I'm here on Fridays from 10 to 10:30, and the studio is here each weekday morning from 10 to 10:30. A variety of teachers and a variety of yoga, and it's a really nice way to get your feet wet and get to know some of the staff or some of the teachers here at the studio, as well as to get a little taste of yoga. Maybe you're new to yoga, maybe you're not sure about yoga. This is a great way to figure out if it is for you, and I hope it is for you. Hello, Mary. Hi, Mary. I will say that yoga quite literally saved my life. I broke parts of my spine. The spine is the focus today. And I broke many parts of my spine in a car accident. Hello, Christine. Hello. Hi, Carmen. Good to see you. Good to see you all. Thank you for coming. Hi, Greg. So, yeah, I broke my spine in several places in my car accident about 10 years ago. And so the spine it dredges up some anxiety for me, some fear and some pain and some stiffness. And yoga, I said it saved my life. I was in such good shape when I had my car accident, when I broke my spine and my neck, that my yoga just carried me through that accident and protected my spine. And the doctors told me, had it not been for such a flexible spine, that I probably would have died. And but anyway, I didn't want to tell you all that this morning. I don't know where that came from. Hi, Gail. Good to see you. The spine. Okay, so the spine is the root of our bodies, and the tailbone is the root of the spine. So I thought we would start at the base of the spine with the tailbone. So that will be the focus of our practice today. So with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and get into my space, and you can do so as well. I'm sitting on a blanket. My blocks are nearby. So settle into your seat. And you can be cross-legged, you can be easy pose with the legs on top of each other or one in front of each other in fire logs like I do, or if you like, you can be in staff pose with your legs extended. All up to you. You find a nice stable seat and wriggle from sit bone to sit bone, and then root onto both sits bones pretty evenly, and draw your belly in and rise up. Kind of lift your sternum, your chest, and your head. And just stay here for a few breaths. Maybe close the eyes or take the gaze downward. And just notice your breath a few times. A couple of inhales and a couple of exhales. And then as you're ready, take your mind into your spine. And take your mind deep, deep at the base of the spine in the tailbone section, also known as the coccyx. And maybe kind of shift from side to side and feel each sit bone and find that tailbone. So you have 3 bones there at the base, forming a little tripod. And you can probably more easily, readily feel the sits bones. You might not really be able to feel your tailbone making contact with the earth, but just pretend like you can. Fake it till you feel it. Feel that little tripod giving you a nice firm base in your seat. If you're familiar with the chakras, the tailbone is the first chakra, the root chakra. I thought that was the best place to start in our spinal talk. A few more breaths, just considering, thinking about your tailbone, your coccyx. There are about 3 to 5 vertebrae in your tailbone. Everyone is different, and it leads up into the sacrum. It's in cahoots with your sacrum. And we've talked a lot about the sacrum in the past weeks in these classes, these sessions. So as you're ready, bring the hands out to the sides and then reach up and interlace your fingers and then turn your palms to face the ceiling. And stay here for a few breaths. Draw the belly in. Belly should be really strong here and the chest lifted to protect your back as you do that. And feel the length of the spine from the tailbone all the way up through the back, out through the neck and the crown of the head, reaching all the way up to the ceiling. The arms are extending that. Keep the shoulders and the elbows relaxed. And as you're ready, we can release. And then take a few shoulder rolls. And then come back to neutral seat. And let's do that again. So arms out to the sides, draw the belly in, lift the sternum, engage the muscles in your torso, root into your tailbone and into your sits bones. And as you're ready, use an inhale to reach up, interlace the fingers, turn the hands, and continue to breathe deeply, inhaling and exhaling. And each time you exhale, think about rooting the tailbone, and each time you inhale, think about extending up out of that tailbone. Now, arms are extension of that, but they're not stiff, so we want to keep the shoulders and the elbows and even the wrists and the fingers relaxed as we do this. A few more breaths. Imagine your tailbone lengthening away from the crown of the head, and the neck from the opposite end of that spine. And then as you're ready, we can bring those arms down again, perhaps with an exhale. Take a few more circles here. And then let's switch the cross of our legs. And notice that as you've switched the cross of your legs, that little tripod that you formed with the sits bones and the tailbone, maybe that doesn't feel as distinct this time because you didn't pick this side to begin with. And there's a reason for that. So reconnect that that tripod in your seat. The two sits bones and your tailbone. Draw the belly in. Lift up from the tailbone with your chest. Take a few more breaths here. And then when you're ready, arms out to the sides, and let's inhale them up. Interlace the fingers, turn the hands again, take a few more breaths. And then when you're ready, inhale, lift a little bit higher, and then exhale, curve to the right. So I'm curving to the left. I'm mirroring what you're doing. And feel that spine lengthening and curving at the same time, from the tailbone all the way up the spine, out the neck, and out through the crown of the head. And then when you're ready, we can use an inhale to come back and an exhale to relax the arms down. Maybe roll the shoulders back a few times. And then as you're ready, settle into your seat again, draw the belly in, lift your sternum, engage those core muscles. Inhale the arms up, lift up, interlace those fingers. Find a little bit more length before you curve to the other side. Root into your tripod, the sits bones and the tailbone, and find that length and curve from there. Lift and curve. All the muscles in the arms, all the, joints are relaxed in the arms. And next time you inhale, let's reach up. And exhale those arms down. Put your hands back on your knees for a few moments, for a few breaths. And take your mind into that tripod, the sits bones and the tailbone. As I was writing my notes this morning, I wrote tailbone as T-bone. I'm thinking maybe that's where T-Bone Purnett came up with his name. Or maybe he likes T-bone steaks, I don't know. All right, let's come into our table pose. Come into table, hands and knees. Maybe take that blanket and put it under your knees if you like, and take a few breaths to really organize a well-structured table. And then we'll do some standard cats and cows. And as we do our cats and cows, let's do them with an eye towards really lengthening that tailbone. So after you've found a good, stable table, start to round your spine towards the front of the body, down towards the floor, and then back towards the ceiling and towards the back of the body. Do a few rounds of that. And then when you're ready, really focus on the tailbone section of your spine. Use an inhale to go in one shape and an exhale to go in the other. And maybe that breath can help you lengthen that tailbone all the more as you go from shape to shape. Let's go one more each direction. And then settle back into your table. And let's spend a few breaths in table, lengthening our spine from the tailbone up through the sacrum, the lower back, your lumbar spine, your thoracic spine, the middle back, up into the neck, your cervical spine, out through the crown of your head. The belly drawn in and your chest muscles engaged. A couple more breaths. Notice if you're looking up, that shortens the spine. Make sure that your face is parallel to the floor. And you're really lengthening that spine from the tailbone all the way up through the neck, your cervical spine. Elbows are soft, shoulders are soft. Weight is evenly distributed between left and right, front and back. A couple more breaths. And then as you're ready, let's make our way into some downward facing dogs. So bring the hands forward and then curl your toes in the back, straighten your legs, lift your tailbone. Lift that tailbone way up to the sky, to the ceiling. And as you're ready, reach that tailbone for the wall behind you. So the tailbone reaches up and the tailbone reaches back. And what do you need to do to the rest of your body to make that happen? What adjustments do you need to make? Do you need to come back down and take a rest? You can do that. We'll spend about 2 or 3 minutes exploring our dogs. So anytime you want to come back down and take a rest, take a rest. And anytime you want to come back up with an eye towards lifting and lengthening that tailbone and reaching it up towards the ceiling and the wall behind you. And I'll give you a few pointers for dogs. If dogs are difficult for you, for instance, if you can't get your heels all the way to the floor, that can inhibit the lengthening of the tailbone. So the more you can get the feet rooted to the floor, the more you can concentrate on lifting that tailbone. So I'm doing a version with the blanket under my heels. So the blanket's not under my toes, it's under my heels. And that way my heels are rooted on something. Now I can get my heels all the way down to the floor. But if you can't, that's a nice way to get your heels all the way down on something. And as you do that, see if that allows you to lift and lengthen that tailbone a little bit more. So that's a nice little trick. Another trick you can do is you can put your heels up against the wall and brace yourself against the wall. And use the wall for leverage to lengthen that spine. Lift that tailbone. So that's another version. Remember, you come down whenever you want to. You go back up whenever you want. We'll do about another minute or so of some dogs. And even though our focus is on the tailbone and lengthening that section of our spine today, if you're running into some troubles with your wrists and your elbows and your shoulders, the more you root into the feet and grow your dog from the feet up, the less weight you'll put on those joints. So this is another thing, rooting into those feet to lift up that tailbone also is going to go a long way to help protect your wrists and your elbows and your shoulders if you're having any discomfort there. And one other thing I wanted to show you, if you have a block, you could use a block for your your downward facing dog. When I said triangle, I spoiled it. You can turn your downward facing dog into what's called a Kundalini triangle. I just learned this recently. So from dog, you can lessen the distance between the feet and the hands. So you'll notice that I'm not as stretched out. And that allows me to bring those feet down. And then I can bring my head to the block. And you might be able to bring your head to the block in a dog or a triangle. You decide. So this is dog with the block. under my head, and this is triangle with the block under my head. So you find which version you want, and when you settle into your version, think about rooting the hands, the feet, as well as the head onto the block, and see if that allows you to lift your tailbone a little bit more and lengthen your tailbone. And make sure you don't lock your knees and your elbows as you do this. And you can stay up a little bit longer in this version, but make sure you're not collapsing your head onto the block. You don't want to be collapsing the head and bending the neck and putting stress on the neck. You want to find a nice long neck with the head rooted onto the block and kind of springing out of the block, not collapsing, but giving you a bracing point to lift and lengthen that spine. Let's go about 10 more breaths exploring these ideas. As you widen your hips and as you widen your sacrum, you might be more easily positioned to lengthen your tailbone. So think about the sacrum just above the tailbone. That's the part of the spine, that's the widest part of the spine right between the hips. It connects into the tailbone connects into the sacrum. They're in cahoots, they work together. So it's hard to consider one without the other. So when you're ready, come on back down. Let's take the next couple of breaths to make our way down into a hero's pose. And I'll turn to face you. Hero's pose. Knees are bent and you sit back on your heels. Now this can be really hard for some folks, especially if you've got some feet issues. And if that's the case, you can take this blanket or this block or a blanket, and you can put a block in between your feet and in between your legs and sit on the block, and that gives you a little bit more height. And that takes pressure off those feet, and you can build up blocks and build up your seat. You're not going to stay here very long. You can have a block and a blanket. And ideally, eventually, the heels are on the outside of the body. It's a really nice meditation pose. We did this pose in that Hips Don't Lie series. But I thought we would return to it for just a few moments because it's a really nice pose for you to zero in on that tailbone, your coccyx. Maybe close your eyes. Draw the belly in and lift your sternum. Feel the ribs lifting away from the hips. And as you do that, perhaps it's easier for you to lengthen the tailbone a little bit more. Or maybe not lengthen, just kind of loosen it up. Make it a little bit more pliable and flexible. And then from here, let's one more pose we will visit. Talking like Yoda. I am a little off today. All right, so you can take that blanket and you can put the blanket in between your hips and your heels. And I'm going to form a little tripod in the back again. So my feet are together and my knees are wide, making a little tripod, nice sound base. And I put the blanket in between my hips and my heels. And then I take a block, and you don't have to have a block for this. As you're ready, Come down into Sphinx arms, elbows right in front of your knees. And if you want, you can take that block and put your head on the block. If you don't have a block, you could use a big book, or you could take your fists and stack your fists and put your head on the fists. So you decide what you want to do. I call this pseudo child. It's not really a child's pose per se, but it kind of is. And I like this version because it allows you to take the emphasis off the spine, or the neck and the thoracic spine, the upper part of your spine, and it allows you to focus more on the lower part of your spine. Child's pose, the whole spine lengthens, but this version you can really focus on that tailbone section. And feel the sits bones widening, the hips widening, the knees are wide to allow for that width in those areas. And as those areas widen, then you create more space for your tailbone to lengthen and perhaps widen and become a little bit more flexible and pliable. So breathe, nice long inhales, nice long exhales with your mind in that tailbone section. And if you're new to yoga, that might sound kind of weird, but that's how you tap into that mind-body connection. And as you breathe into that tailbone section and lengthen and widen it, you might be letting go of some tensions that you're holding on to in that tailbone section. And that might be cascading up into the sacrum. So as your tailbone lengthens and widens, your sacrum will follow suit, most likely. So let's stay here for just a few more breaths. Nice long inhales and nice long exhales. Root into those foundation points, like we did in that dog or triangle with the head on the block. If you root into the floor with the hands, the elbows, the knees, the feet, root into the block with the head, that might give you a little bit more leverage to lengthen your spine, particularly that tailbone section. And when you're ready, continue to find those foundation points and root into those foundation points. Draw the belly in, use the muscles, and use your leverage to make your way back up. And then let's sit one last time. So you can take that blanket and come into a seated position, your choice. Easy pose. You could do lotus if you'd like, or you could do fire logs like I'm in. The legs aren't on top of each other, one is in front of the other, and that allows me to find my tripod and my seat a little bit easier, more easily. So once again, maybe close the eyes or take your gaze downward and take your mind into that tripod in your seat, the two sits bones and your tailbone. And root into each point evenly. Draw the belly in and lift your sternum, rise up out of that tripod with a sense of strength, but also with a sense of ease. A strong, well-foundationed seat that's easy, that's light and breezy. And as you're ready, Let's bring our hands to heart center. May you be safe, may you be happy, and may you be free from accidents, and may you be free from suffering. Namaste. Thank you so much for joining me. Fridays, 10 to 10:30. Jennifer Eubank. And with that being said, we will not be here next Friday. So I will see you in 2 weeks. Please keep me in mind for the future and visit the archives if you'd like. And if you want to send me some email, I'm at jennyyoga101@gmail.com. And that's 1 Y, Jenny Yoga. Jenny Yoga 101@gmail.com. So thank you so much. Check out our website, Sun and Moon Yoga Studio. We're in Arlington and Fairfax, and we are resuming our Zoom schedule. We'll take a little break next week, but we'll be back for the full. Oh, thank you so much. Oh, thanks, Chris. She likes the Kundalini triangle. Yeah, I just recently learned that. It's a really neat thing. I like that one. Thank you so much. Thank you. Have a great weekend, everybody. Be good to yourselves. Thank you, Greg. Thank you, Frank. Have a lovely weekend. Love you guys. Thank you. Get your yoga on. Have a wonderful day, everyone.